My question is to the Minister for Education. What role does poor hearing, particularly through lack of attention to conditions such as otitis media, play in retarding and impeding learning in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students?
The Minister for Education.
Look, I thank the member for the question. I'm in an awkward situation, in particular in relation to the nature of the question, because I actually have a hearing aid. I'm not wearing it today, and I couldn't quite make out some of the detail in her question. Can I respectfully ask that it be repeated?
The member for Florey.
So what role does poor hearing, particularly induced through the lack of attention to conditions such as otitis media, in-ear infection, play in retarding and impeding learning in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students?
The Minister for Education.
Look, I thank the member for the question. It's obviously a very important body of work, particularly in remote Indigenous communities where for indeed a couple of decades now we have had research provided to state government. I imagine in the past, certainly I recall I was working in federal politics in a different career at a time when there was significant work released then, and that it is a significant challenge. There's a number of strategies that educators and schools and the department indeed take in terms of supporting students. Some of the work that is done includes indeed wherever we have new builds of schools, the acoustics is taken very significantly into account, and indeed a number of the new modern modular facilities that are now coming up in schools have often as a standard piece of their infrastructure acoustic loops and the opportunity for enhanced auditory capability to be taken into account. It's one of the challenges indeed in school infrastructure where particularly some of the 1960s and 1970s builds where they were seeking to identify the opportunity for collaborative learning, open classrooms and so forth, were also... Sorry?
The Minister has the call. Interjections will cease.
Were also built at a time where, a lack of carpet and echoes and so forth was sincerely problematic in those learning environments. And that's amongst the challenges of some of the ageing infrastructure around our education system that we're now dealing with. The problem is so much worse in many Indigenous and remote Indigenous communities. And there are indeed, I believe, and I don't have the data here to back up, but I'm very confident that there is an increased risk of loss of educational outcome as a result of particularly inner ear diseases and issues. Sometimes measures, even exposure and opportunities to engage in things like swimming pools, can be assisting in communities, and that's something where the Education Department continues to invest and support. And indeed, what I'm also going to do, in addition to the high-level information that I've identified in this answer, what I might do, if the member's happy, I'll take on notice with a view to bringing back some particular identified measures that are taking place in the Education Department and our public school system in particular. There's a number of others underway in non-government schools that I'm aware of but aren't directly responsible for. But in our public education system, some of the further measures are undertaken to address the particular condition that the member's raised.